We're not highly levered anymore. Now, with that being said, we'll pay back debt, but we also might make a distribution to the people, almost like a dividend to the people of America.
How much are you thinking for that, sir?
Well, we're thinking maybe $1,000 to $2,000. Be great.
Another way that you...
So that was President Trump talking again about a dividend check or a tariff rebate. So a stimulus check going out to the American people. And he was saying that it should be between $1,000 and $2,000. Now, this isn't the first time that he's mentioned this. He mentioned this a month ago. So now he's repeating the same thing he mentioned a month ago. We haven't seen any progress in August. Well, August, Congress was on recess pretty much the whole month of August. But now that they are back, or somewhat back, now we're looking at this government shutdown and we don't really have too much going on in Congress right now. When they come back, will they start talking about some type of a stimulus for the American people? Now, I want to take a deep dive into this because the president is saying one thing, Congress is actually saying something else. We also have money that they're talking about sending to farmers. And so we're going to unpack all of this. And I'm going to show you, if we're talking about stimulus going out to the American people, how much that would actually cost and how much money we're bringing in when it comes to tariffs. So that's what we're going to focus on in this video. But first off, you guys can do me a favor. Please like the video. And if you're watching this video and you want to see more content like this, please consider subscribing to the channel. Now, there was an article that was posted by Axios just yesterday. They were talking about this whole stimulus check. So stimulus says what to know about Trump's pitch for $2,000 stimulus checks from tariff revenue. So the first thing that we need to focus on is this tariff revenue. How much money is really coming in when it comes to tariffs? And they're estimating it's about $400 billion. That's what they'll be able to collect in 1 year when it comes to tariffs. So $400 billion. Right now, so far, we've collected about $100 billion. Now, if they were to take all of this money and pay down our national debt, it would pay down about $4 trillion of our national debt. Remember, we're about $37 trillion right now. So it would pay down about $4 trillion over a decade. So that if we don't take any of that money and send it to farmers, we don't take any of that money and send it to the American people, then it would pay down $4 trillion. That's really not that much in the big scheme of things if we're looking at a $37 trillion debt. Now, obviously, if we send that money out to the American people, send that money out to help farmers, there's going to be less of it. So that means that that $4 trillion that we're talking about won't even be close to $4 trillion. And so what is the president really talking about when he's saying we're going to be sending out, or we might send out stimulus checks to the American people, or we might send out, or actually he didn't say might, he said we will send out money to help the farmers. So they're taking all this money from tariffs. Now let's understand how tariffs work. And I will say this in every video that I post that I talk about tariffs, because I want you to understand this money is not coming from other countries. This money is coming from the American people. So let's say you have a business. I sell shoes. I want to sell my shoes, but I have to import some of those shoes from another country. Those shoes that are imported from another country, I have to pay a tariff on that. So I have to pay a tax on that. That money goes to the federal government. That's that $100 billion that's the federal government now has. It has that as a result of me paying that tariff. Now, what I can do, since I had to pay an extra tariff on those shoes, I can pass that cost on to the consumer. And that's what we're seeing a lot of companies do. They're passing it on to the consumer. So when they sell that product, when I sell my shoes to a consumer, I can say, you know what, you're going to have to pay a little bit more because I had to pay more just to get it here. And so that's what's going on. So not only do you have companies that are paying the tariff, but you have some of that cost being passed on to the consumer, us. So when we go and we buy these products are more expensive. So both the company is paying a tax and the consumer is paying a tax. The federal government is getting that money. Now, because we're seeing inflation rise, the president is feeling, he's in the hot seat. Inflation is rising. That wasn't the promise. The promise is that inflation was going to go down. Grocery prices are going to go down. The price of products were going to go down as well. But that is not what we're seeing. And so now the president is saying, well, we can offer this between $1,000 and $2,000 stimulus check. And maybe that will help. Maybe people will be a little more satisfied if they're receiving the stimulus check. Now, there's some problems with that. And at the end of this video, I'm going to talk about if we are stimulating the economy, what that is going to do. But I want to take a look at just the cost, because that's something that's important as well. So we know that tariff revenue, we're going to be looking at about $400 billion. That's what they'll be able to collect in tariff revenue. And we've also heard that the president wants to send out some aid to farmers. Okay, so we don't know exactly how much that's going to be. Let's just say an estimate. Maybe it's $23 to $24 billion. Okay, the last time that this happened, I believe it was around that number. That's how much money that they sent to farmers to help them. Now, what I want to do is I want to take a look at the stimulus checks, because this will give us an idea. So during the pandemic, we had stimulus checks that went out. How much did those stimulus checks actually cost? And so if we take a look, stimulus checks, the first stimulus check, $1,200 stimulus check, that cost $290 billion. And then the second round, that was a $600 stimulus check, and that cost $164 billion. And then the final stimulus check that went out was $1,400, 2021, and that costs $410 billion. So you see, stimulus checks, that costs a lot of money if we're looking at the same demographics. So we're looking at the same groups receiving a stimulus check. And so if that were to be the case, and you have the president saying between $1,000 and $2,000, we could be looking at a situation where all of that money, all of the money that's collected in tariffs, will have to go out to the American people to help with this stimulus dividend rebate that he's talking about. And so that's not possible, even if you made it $1,200. So if we go back and we take a look at $1,200, that's still $290 billion. So you take that out. And so let's say you have $400 billion that's collected in tariffs. You take out $300 billion, that's going to go back to the American people. Then you take out another $20 billion, that's going to go to farmers. And so now you only have $80 billion to go to pay down the debt. And so what you're doing is you're taxing the American people, so the American people have to pay more when they buy products. Then you're giving them this stimulus check, and then you only have $80 billion to pay down the debt. Okay, and that's just looking at that scenario. Let's say it's closer to 2,000. If it's closer to 2,000 when it comes to a stimulus check, then guess what? You're not going to have any money left in tariffs, and then you're going to have to go even more in debt to pay these stimulus checks, because they'll cost more. Now, what they probably will have to do is they'll have to say, well, we can't give it to the same amount of people that we gave it to when it comes to stimulus checks. We're going to have to give it to a smaller demographic. And if you send it to a smaller demographic, you're going to have people that are going to be upset because they didn't receive this stimulus dividend check, and we're all paying into it. When we go to the grocery store, we're paying more. When we buy products, other products, we're paying more. So we're all paying this tax, this tariff that's going to the government, but we're not able to receive this stimulus. And so that could be a huge problem. Now, when we're talking about stimulus, I need to be clear. When we're talking about stimulus checks going out to the American people, the reason why we were calling them stimulus checks is because they help stimulate the economy. If we're looking at an economy that we're looking at right now, where we're seeing inflation start to rise again, if we stimulate the economy at this point, guess what's going to happen? We're going to see inflation rise even more and faster. Why? Because we've given people money, and those people will go out, a lot of people will go out, and they'll spend that money. They'll spend it at their grocery store. They'll spend it at their local electronics store, buying TVs and buying food. That will mean the price of those products will go up, because remember, if I'm selling, let's say I'm selling eggs, and I have a certain price on that eggs. Let's say that it's $8.99 for eggs, a dozen eggs. And you get a stimulus check, and so now you can afford those eggs for $8.99, and so you go ahead and you buy those eggs for $8.99, and everyone that's receiving stimulus checks, they're out there buying those eggs for $8.99. And so then the store looks at this and they say, well, look, people are still buying eggs for $8.99. Why not raise it to $9.99 or raise it to $10.99? Maybe they'll continue to buy them at $10.99. And so that's what they do. And if people have money, they will go ahead and purchase those products. Now, the problem with that is that we're talking about a stimulus check. We're talking about one stimulus check. And so once that money is run out, you're still going to have those prices up there. When you go to the grocery store, they're still going to be high. But guess what? You're not going to receive another stimulus check unless that's in the plan, which I don't think that's in the plan. That's not what he's saying. He's saying that he wants to send out stimulus checks to the American people to help them out. But it sounds like it will be a one-shot deal. So you stimulate the economy, you get prices up even higher, and then once that money is gone, it's gone, and you're not going to have any help, and these prices will still be up there in a lot of these different categories. And so that's the major problem with saying, okay, we're going to send out stimulus checks. Now, another thing that we need to focus on Congress, because the president doesn't have the power to send out stimulus checks. The president can say whatever he wants to say, but when it comes to stimulus checks, it has to come from Congress. Congress has to actually vote on this, pass a bill in both the House and the Senate, and then it gets to the president, and the president can sign off on it. Now, we know already, Speaker Johnson, when they were talking about dividend checks, when they were talking about Doge dividend checks, just a few months ago, Speaker Johnson said, no, this doesn't sound like a good idea. We should be paying down our debt with that money. And so both dividend checks and this stimulus check that they're talking about now from tariff revenue, the leaders in Congress don't favor moving forward with some type of a stimulus check. So even though the president's saying this, Congress is not saying this. Congress doesn't want to move forward with something like this. And so it's not going to go anywhere if Congress doesn't move forward with something like this. And so I just want to put that out there to you guys. The reality is right now, yes, you have the president saying one thing, but it doesn't look like this is going to even be possible. Now, we could see a wrinkle to this. Next year, midterm elections, we could see Congress try to do something to help the American people, especially if we're looking at a situation where our economy is continuing to go downhill. If our economy is going downhill, then we could see Congress say, yes, we need to do something because our jobs are on the line. We might not get reelected if we're looking at a bad economy. So they might say, okay, well, let's stimulate the economy by providing these stimulus checks. So we could see that next year. But right now, Congress is not in favor of doing anything like this. So I want to know what you guys think. So let me know in the comments below. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. Please subscribe for more, and I'll talk to you in the next one. Bye. So that's all we have for this video. Make sure if you guys want to send me an email, you can do that, david@thetecshow.com. Like the video, subscribe for more, and check out these videos over here for some more great content. Talk to you later. Bye.